Good morning, fourth graders at Cumberland Elementary School. Today is Tuesday, May 5th already. And we sent out some things, some suggestions and ideas to work on yesterday on IXL. Don't forget though, you've got Spelling City you can play around on. You've got Prodigy. Don't forget about Epic. Don't forget about reading and taking those AR tests. I'm hopeful that everybody is still going to get their 100 points by the end of the year. So really be working on reading and taking those AR tests as well. All right, the city of Ember. Yesterday we left off and Dune was on his way back to Pipeworks and Lena was up on the roof and she saw him with the candle and the light was moving, zigzag kind of off to the Pipeworks, and she knew that she wanted to go. Watching the tiny light following its steady course, she made a wish with the whole force of her mind and heart. Then the floodlights flickered. There was a great cry of hope from the crowd, and the lights, they came on, and they stayed on. Lena ran to the back edge of the roof, dropped easily down onto the roof of the prison room, and seeing no guards in the crowd that was now streaming into the street, she jumped from there to the ground and joined the throng of people. She made her way down Greystone Street, going out at the same pace as everyone else so she wouldn't stand out. When she came to the trash can enclosure behind the gathering house, she squatted down and hid. Her heart was beating fast, but she felt strong and purposeful now. She had a plan. As soon as she spotted Mrs. Murdo and Poppy on the way home, she put it into action. Chapter 17 is called Away. At 3:20, Dune took his pillowcase pack, left the school by the back door, and started up Pibb Street. He went fast. The lights had gone out for a few minutes just before 3, and he was nervous about being outside. He planned to take the long way to the Pipeworks, out the very edge of the city, to avoid any guards that might still be looking for him. He was filled with dread about Lena. He wouldn't know what had happened to her until he got to the Pipeworks, and either she showed up or she didn't. All he could do now was run. He raced down Knack Street. It was strange to be out in the city with the streets so utterly deserted. Without the people passing back and forth, the street seemed wider and darker. Nothing moved but himself, his shadow, and his fleeting reflection in shop windows he passed. In Silverton Square, he saw a kiosk with a poster with his and Lena's names on it had been pinned up. Everyone in the city must have seen those posters by now. He was famous, he thought wryly, but not in the way he wanted. There would be no glorious moment on the gathering house steps after all. Instead of making his father proud, he would cause him dreadful worry. This thought made him so sad that his knees felt suddenly wobbly. How could he just vanish without a word? It was too late now, though. He couldn't go back. If only there was some way to send him a message. And in a moment, he realized there was. He stopped, fished in his backpack for the paper and pencil he had brought, and scribbled on it, "Father, we have found the way out. It was in the Pipeworks after all. You will know about it tomorrow. Love, Dune." He folded this in quarters and wrote, "Deliver to Loris Harrow," in big letters on the outside, and pinned it to the kiosk. There, that was the best he could do. He would have to trust that someone would deliver it to his father. In the distance, he heard the faint sound of the singing. He listened. It was the song of the river just ending. Far below, like the blood of the earth, from the center of nowhere rushing forth. He sang under his breath. Like everyone in Ember, he knew the words of the 3 songs by heart. He sang along softly with the faraway singers, making the light for the lamps of Ember, older than anyone can remember, faster than anything anyone knows. The river comes and the river goes. Up Rim Street now to River Road. He was halfway there. The singers were starting on the Song of the Darkness. It was his favorite, with its powerful, deep harmonies. He was a little sorry to be missing it. He went up the Pot Street side of empty River Road Square, where another poster hung crookedly on its kiosk. He was headed toward North Street when suddenly the lights flickered and went out. He jolted to a stop. Stand still and wait? That was his automatic response. In the distance, he heard a dip in the sound of the singing and some startled voices breaking the flow. But then the song rose again, defying the darkness, and for a moment all thoughts vanished from Dune's mind. There was nothing but the fearless words of the song. Black as sleep and deep as dreaming, darkness like an endless night, yet within the streets of Ember, bright and bravely shines our light. He sang, standing still in the blackness. When the song ended, he waited. The lights would surely come back soon. For a few minutes there was silence, and then, far away, the piercing, clear, he heard a scream. More screams and shouts followed, the sounds of panic. He felt the panic himself, like a hand taking hold of him, making him want to leap up and fling himself against the dark. But suddenly, with a flash of joy, he remembered he didn't have to wait for the lights to come back on. He had what no citizen of Ember had ever had before. He had a way to see in the dark. He set his pack down, untied the knot at the top, and groped around inside until he felt the candle. Down in a corner, he found the little packet of matches. He scraped a match against the pavement, and it flared up instantly. He held the flame to the string on the candle, and the string began to burn. He had a light. He had the only light in the entire city. The candle didn't cast its light very far, but it was enough to see at least the pavement in front of him. He went slowly along Pot Street, then turned left on North Street. At the end of the street was the wall of the Pipeworks office. When he got to the Pipeworks entrance, no one was there. A little cloud of moths came to flutter around the flame of his candle, but otherwise, nothing. Nothing moved in Plummer Square. There was nothing to do but wait. Doon blew the candle out. He didn't want to use it all up in case the light stayed off a long time, and squatted down on the pavement. Setting down his bundle and leaning against one of the big trash cans, he waited, listening to the distant shouts. And at last, the lights blinked, blinked, blinked again, and then came on. Lena was nowhere in sight. If the guards had found her and taken her, but Doon preferred not to think about that. Not yet. He would wait for a while. She would have been delayed by the blackout if she was on her way. He couldn't see the clock tower from here, but it was probably not even quite 4 o'clock. What if she didn't come? The singing was over. The people were dispersing throughout the city, and the guards no doubt would soon resume their search for him. Doon clasped his arms together and pressed them hard against his stomach, trying to stop the queasy fluttering. If she didn't come, Doon had 2 choices. He could stay in the city and do what he could to save Lena, or he could go in the boat by himself and hope Lena could somehow free herself, tell the people of Ember about the way out. He didn't like either of those plans. He wanted to go down the river, and he wanted to go with Lena. Doon stood up and hoisted his sack again. He was too restless to keep sitting. He walked up and down to Grapery Street and looked in both directions. Not a single person was in sight. He walked to Plummer Street, thinking that perhaps Lena was coming by the way of the city's edge, as he had, to avoid being seen, but no one was there either. He didn't see anyone when he went past Subling Street to the very end of the city. He had to decide what to do. He went and stood in the doorway of the Pipeworks. Think, he said to himself, think. He was not even sure he could make the river journey by himself. How would he get the boat into the water? Could he lift it without help? On the other hand, how could he help Lena if she was in the hands of the mayor's guards? What could he possibly do that would not just get himself caught too? He felt sick. His hands were cold. He stepped out of the doorway and scanned the square once again. Nothing moved but the moths around his light. And then, down Grapery Street, Lena came running. She came slantwise across the square, and he dashed to meet her. She was hugging a bundle to her chest. "I've come. I'm here. I almost didn't make it," she said, breathing so hard she could barely talk. And look!" She folded back the blanket of her bundle. Doon saw a curl of brown hair and 2 wide, frightened eyes. I've brought Poppy." Doon was so glad to see Lena that he didn't mind at all that Poppy was coming with them, making a risky journey even riskier. Relief and excitement flooded through him. They were going. They were actually going. Okay, he said. "Come on." With his borrowed key, he opened the Pipeworks door, and they hurried past the yellow slickers on their hooks and the lines of rubber boots. Doon dashed into the Pipeworks office long enough to replace the key on its hook, and then they pulled open the stairway door and started down. Lena stepped slowly because of Poppy, and Poppy clung to her neck, unusually quiet, sensing the strangeness and the importance of what was happening. At the bottom of the stairs, they came out into the made tunnel and walked down the path to the west until they came to the marked rock. "How are we going to get Poppy down there?" Doon asked. Lena said, I'll fasten her to my chest." Setting Poppy down, Lena took off the coat and the sweater she was wearing. With Doon's help, she made her sweater into a sling for Poppy, tying its sleeves behind her neck, and she put her coat back on and buttoned it up. Doon looked doubtful at this bulky arrangement. "Will you be able to climb down carrying her like that? Will you be able to reach around her and hold even onto the rungs of the ladder?" Yes, said Lena. Now that she had Poppy with her, she felt brave again, and she could do whatever she needed to do. Doon went down first. Lena followed. "Stay very still, Poppy," she said. "Please." please don't squirm. And that's where we'll stop. See you guys tomorrow.